If we left a baby on a deserted island, could he find Allah on his own? There is a piece of evidence that is very, very close to us today, and it shows us the existence of Allah. Yet most people, maybe even you, don't realize. I'll talk about it today. There was a very unique experiment done on babies. Let's talk about it a little first. In the early 2000s at Yale University, a research was done on babies. The experiment was as follows in short. They made babies watch a play using puppets of good and bad characters. First, an episode was shown in which one puppet helped another puppet. Then an episode was shown in which another puppet prevented the help. So there were two characters. One was good and the other was bad. They wondered which one the babies would choose. Then they showed the babies these two puppets and asked them to choose one as a gift. And everyone was waiting eagerly to see whether they would choose the good or the bad puppet. Despite the factors such as getting distracted, almost all of them chose the puppet that was good. With this experiment, it was concluded that goodness is actually an inborn characteristic. There are other similar experiments as well. For example, another one is as follows. Professor Justin L. Barrett conducted a study at Oxford University with 57 academicians on children in 20 countries. They found that children are inborn to believe in the idea of a supernatural power. So babies already have the idea of a supernatural power from birth. Think about it. You are a baby, but you come to the world knowing what is good. Or you are born and believing in a supernatural power, namely the Creator. How can that be possible? If we are born with certain characteristics, that is, knowing what is good, shouldn't there be a Creator who sent us here by placing those characteristics in us? Because you don't even have time to learn the good and the bad after all, do you? You are a baby. Or coming into this world recognizing Allah and accepting Him indicates something, doesn't it? That is our topic today, a point that is missed and that many people don't realize. Today we will talk about the closest evidence that shows Allah to us, in our nature that is, within ourselves. We can also call it the evidence of nature, fitra. In other words, there is an alarm that goes off regularly in man. It constantly warns us and reminds us of Allah. In fact, there are two characteristics in human nature proving Allah's existence that even an atheist cannot remove from his world of feelings and thought. I will mention those two characteristics soon, but first it is necessary to clarify what fitra, nature, is. Fitra is Allah's creation of beings with the ability to know Him. That is, Allah created man in such a way that he has the innate ability to turn to a Creator and to find Him. For example, as soon as a baby is born, it immediately turns towards breast milk, right? It looks as if it already knows the action of sucking, however, there is no time period to learn it. So Allah placed that deed in human nature and then sent him to this world. The characteristic of believing in Allah also exists in our inborn nature. Allah created us with this instinct so that we could easily find Him. I mean, if man just stops and reflects on this inner message, he will say, "There is Allah who created me." How do we know that? For example, let's look at the earth. There are thousands of different religions and beliefs. Even when we look at the oldest towns that have been found, for example, Göbekli Tepe, we see that there is a temple, a place of worship there. When we look at the religions of different tribes, we see the concept of believing in a supreme creator. This is what I mean. If human nature did not have the natural ability to turn towards a creator, would thousands of such religions have emerged? Of course not. Of course, misunderstandings may arise. I'm not saying they are true. Some people worship idols, but the point here is this. People unavoidably believe in something. An alarm within them reminds them of something and directs them to that something constantly. Man finds in his nature exactly what message the prophets are sent with. Just as our hunger is proof for the existence of food, our thirst indicates the existence of water and leads us to it. So too does the search within us lead us to a creator. In order to understand that there is such a characteristic in our nature, it is enough to look at our daily life. For example, if grapes are suspended from over our head, if a bunch of grapes is suspended, we will look around right away to see who did that. We won't just eat the grapes right away, would we? We would ask who produced them, because we would establish a direct link between the product and the producer. It is a characteristic in our nature. And just like the suspension of grapes, when we look at the branches of the trees and see fruits, the same question comes to mind again. Just as I asked who did that and looked for the one who suspended the grapes, I would automatically ask who provides me these fruits. So the question's still the same. Who offers them? Or one day you wake up and see that there is a computer in your room. You will ask straight away, who put this computer here? You won't ignore it by saying it somehow happened. Let's just carry on with our conversation like nothing exceptional happened. You will ask about it. You will say, after all, it didn't just come here on its own out of nowhere, did it? What makes you say it is this idea in your inner nature that nothing comes into being on its own. That is the idea of finding a creator. That is, man knows the idea nothing comes into being on its own out of non-existence very well because we have it in our nature. Thus, man understands the idea that the universe can't come into being on its own out of non-existence, and he immediately accepts a creator. That is, believing in Allah is the most basic characteristic and the most logical decision of man. In fact, not accepting a creator is against man's own innate instinctive impulse. That is, if someone accepts a creator and believes in him, that means he does the most logical and rational thing, because human nature and inner being lead us to it. So let's move on to the question we asked at the beginning. If a baby were left on a deserted island, could he find Allah on his own? Actually, we gave a little hint. His nature will lead him to a search. Who am I? I didn't exist before. There must be a being who brought me into existence from non-existence. How did all the beings around me come into existence? With dozens of questions and thoughts, he will find himself believing in a creator. The following objection may come to mind. Well, since turning to Allah exists in everyone's nature, why doesn't everybody do it? Why are there atheists? Let's answer it right away. Firstly, man has free will. And secondly, nature can be misdirected in the course of time. Even if a person knows something to be correct, he might not accept it because he has free will. Sometimes we experience this too. We may know something to be correct, but we don't follow it deliberately. So first of all, there's the concept of free will. A person may find rules and prohibitions hard to follow. If there's a rule, a man can immediately direct his will in a different direction. In addition, a person can be misdirected and his nature disrupted with the bad effects of the environment around him. So that is also a question. But as we said, man's nature will always lead him to Allah because it has two main characteristics. The first is the presence of opposite characteristics in man himself. So what do I mean by that? A mirror shows the image more clearly than clear glass because its back is black. There's a contrast in it. Or a match that we light reflects the light better at night, but it is not so visible during the daytime. Similarly, there are characteristics such as weakness, helplessness, poverty, neediness in man. We have endless needs and seek and find a supreme being who will meet those needs. In other words, these characteristics in man, like the appearance of light at night, enable a person to find Allah faster and more clearly. The second aspect is that there are some limited abilities in man. For example, man has limited knowledge, power, sight, and hearing. He makes a comparison and says, since I have these characteristics, there must be a creator with infinite knowledge and power who sees and hears everything. Thus, he recognizes his Lord and finds him. For example, if we had no ability to see, could we understand Allah's attribute of seeing? Of course not. Allah placed these characteristics in our nature so that we could recognize and find him. So a person who observes himself and his nature can easily discover the attributes of Allah. In other words, fitra, nature, is a great proof that leads people to Allah. Man can also fulfill this inner search together with the Prophet, peace be upon him. In fact, one of the strongest proofs for the truth of the religion of Islam is human nature. Just as there is a perfect harmony between the key and the lock, so too there is perfect harmony between Islam and human nature. For example, the feeling of eternity in human nature is a proof for the existence of the hereafter. The desire for justice, the pursuit of justice in man, and his anger towards the oppressors prove that a court will be established in the hereafter and that paradise and hell exist, just as Islam says. Or, if someone we borrowed money from asks for more than he loaned, and that we feel disturbed by this, as proof that the prohibition of interest is compatible with nature. In other words, the nature of man is in perfect harmony with the knowledge that Islam presents. If a person looks at his nature, he can easily find Allah as well as the truth of Islam. In other words, even if a person closes his eyes, a voice inside him will always lead him to Allah. Sometimes the evidence we are looking for is very close to us. It is in us, but we don't notice it. There is a statement of Bediüzzaman Said Nursi. Let's finish our video with it. Even if the mind closes its eyes, the eyes of the conscience are always open.
Hello brothers and sisters, and thank you for watching the video. If you want to take a look at more of our videos like this, you can check the playlists we created specifically for you on the right, or you can check out our latest videos on the left. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel so that we can reach and benefit more people. See you.